Well, welcome everybody. Guys, how are y'all?
We are back.
We're back again, just like we always are every week. Here we are. We're on Monday today recording. We didn't.
Regular
we're
schedule.
Regular time back. So the sermon was just yesterday and Thursday.
Fresh on
so
the mind.
We should remember what we said, what I said yesterday.
We didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was silent.
Part 2 of Don't Attempt This Alone. Good day yesterday. Bunch of folks here yesterday.
Yeah,
Yes.
man. Really good day, strong day.
Yeah.
It was full. We
Lot
had
of kids.
for people that were here on campus, we had Pelicans.
Pelican
Yeah.
snowballs after
Yeah,
church.
forgot about
That was
that.
fun.
That was fun. Everybody seemed to enjoy that long line that was out there for Pelicans.
Man,
as well.
after second service yesterday, the line was all the way out in front of the building.
Yeah.
Which I thought, I hate people to wait that long, but I also thought, what a great advertisement for people driving by saying something's going on there, because there
Very
were
true.
people
People
like
getting free
mad
snow
out there. Gracious.
and hopefully everybody took some time to talk to people they were standing in line with.
They did. I saw it.
Maybe make a new friend.
Yep.
So as we are talking about that whole idea,
Yep.
talking about the idea.
Nice
Just,
segue.
hey, that's why I'm here.
Well, you did it. You did it.
No, this week talking about the difference between a wise friend and and foolish individuals that may be a part of our lives, and talking about the difference there and why we need to camp out and get some wise people and some good friendships in our own lives.
That's incredibly important, that you are very intentional with the people you have in your life. I see so many people, and I've been that way, that you're kind of passive. You see somebody and think, yeah, let's go out to dinner, and then you just kind of get in a routine of hanging out with the person without asking yourself, what effect are they having on my life? And that's important to do. It really is.
I think you said it. I think in the beginning of the message you were talking about, show me the friends that you have, and I'll show you your future. I think it's a quote that I've heard, some other places as well. But it really is true. You are kind of the sum of the people that you spend the majority of your time with.
Absolutely. I can think of several. One of them is, you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas.
Yep.
You ever
Yeah.
heard that one?
No, I heard that
I
one.
heard that one.
Yeah.
My wife's mom always spoke one to her in Spanish. It said, tell me who you're walking with, and I'll tell you who you are. And you find that out. You can judge a person's character by the people they choose to hang out with. You really can, because like attracts like.
Yep.
Really does. If you want to be a wise person, hang out with wise people. It's just plain. So we got to be intentional with that.
Yeah. The whole idea of being intentional about who you spend your time with and how you select your friends. I don't know that is something that a whole lot of people pay attention to. Sometimes it's just the fact that these are the people who maybe I work with, or the people that my kids play. My kids play on a ball team, and there's other parents there, and so you just kind of become friends with those people. But talk to us about the idea of being extremely intentional about the people that you choose to influence you.
We've all heard, or I have, and probably most of us have heard on the negative side of it, of don't hang around with people who will drag you down.
Right.
Don't hang around with people who will get you into bad habits and get you into trouble. I think we hear more about that, and that's really important, to not hang around with people. And we see it all the time, that people come to Christ and they attempt to start living for Jesus and walk with Jesus, and they don't change friends, and they keep hanging out with the folks from their old life, and the folks from their old life pull them right back into their old life. When you come to Christ, everything changes. The Bible says old things are passed away, all things are new, and that ought to also be a change in relationships. Doesn't mean you reject everybody, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, but it means that you intentionally put people in your life. So I've had a lot of teaching and advice over my life about getting rid of the wrong people in my life. I haven't had nearly as much about intentionally bringing the right people into my inner circle to help me to grow. And I think it's critical that we look at our lives and say, okay, what do I want to do with my life? If it's to glorify Jesus, I need people in my life that are good at that. If it's to make money, I need people that are good with that. If it's to build a business, it's to be a good parent, to be a good husband, wife, I've got to bring the people into my life who've done that intentionally, and I've got to make time and spend time with them.
Yeah. Great way to do that, too, is to go where those people are. Yeah, if you're out there and it's like, where are these people? Ideally, you're going where they are so that you can meet them. We hope to think that this is a place where they are, or just church in general. But yeah, especially if your goal is to deepen your relationship with Christ, you got to go where those people are. You can't just necessarily just sit around. And sometimes that happens where somebody will walk into your life and it feels divine, like you needed them, and that's happens a lot. But a lot of the times, it's on you to kind of make that happen. You got to make time for it and put work into relationships with people.
Be in the right places.
Yeah.
Most people who come to church is going to have a desire anyway to do the right thing, to live for Christ. They're trying to head in a good direction with their lives. If you meet them in church, now that's not to say everybody coming to church comes for those reasons, or everybody at church is perfect, or the person you want to hang out with is probably, there are people at church that you don't want to hang out with because they're not on the same path. But church is a good place to meet the right people.
Yep.
It really is. And then for people in business and in the work life, there are peer groups, there are places to go, conferences, events. You make good friends with people like that. I like to go to trainings all the time and meet new pastors and meet people who've done what I want to do and just get them in my life. I need to hang out. There are people, I think we all have people in our life who kind of drain us, people who you're with them for 5 or 10 minutes and you're already feeling tired because they're taking, and that's what ministry is. Then there are people who just fill our tanks up. There are people that I hang out with on a regular basis that I feel better about life after lunch with them. You know what I mean? You really have to watch that. And that's another thing we didn't talk about over the weekend, but they're the drainers and the fillers. They're those who drain your tank empty, and they're those who fill your tank up. And obviously, if you're driving your car, driving it down the road's a drain, you're losing gas. You have to spend as much time filling up as you do draining. You know what I mean? You have to at least put that same volume of fuel back in the tank.
Absolutely.
And so many people live their lives on an empty tank all the time, and they don't have those relationships that actually fill them back up. And that's critical that we do that. Or we just run empty. We run out.
Yeah. It was good you mentioned, too, that it's like that doesn't mean that we shut off all relationships with people that don't fill us up, or that we can't. You talked about the difference between ministry and fellowship. It's not that anyone who drains you immediately cut off and can no longer hang out with them. But you want to talk about the difference between, someone you view in your life as a close circle that's pouring into your life and you're pouring into theirs, versus the difference of someone you might have a relationship with, but it's pretty much just you dumping or pouring out into them.
Yeah. Ministry is you filling their tank up, whatever it is. And fellowship is just something mutual happen between, ministry, I said yesterday, is just pouring out. It's pouring out to people. And you always do that. That's the big outer circle we have of ministry. Then there's that inner circle of people who fill us. And fellowship is you filling each other's tanks up. There's something reciprocal going on there. You're investing, they're investing. And, no, you don't cut people off from ministry. We're always going to have those people in our lives that do need resources, that need our emotional, our spiritual life. They need that poured into them, But you just got to manage that tank well to make sure you're staying full at the same time, and hanging around with people that are going to help you get where God wants you to go. Yeah. It's just so critical.
Yeah, it's like it's it's like you said, it's the balance of time spent with those who will fill you up versus drain you. And it's pretty simple. Like if that gets off where you're being drained more than you're being filled, that's going to lead to a bad spot where you're on empty.
Yeah, that's true in relationships, habits, all kinds of things. People who don't have a good work-life balance, they're always at work getting drained and all this, and then they don't actually do the activities that fill them back up, and they need that.
You talked as well about the idea of an honest conversation. Jesus changes your life, and he takes you out of some situations and rescues you from maybe some addictions or different things like that. But then you still got this balance that you're trying to live of the people that maybe do drain you a little bit, and people you need to be doing ministry to and not necessarily fellowshipping with. And you talked about an honest conversation that needs to be had there. And you even gave a little bit of a blueprint there about how to have that conversation. I can only imagine, because I've been there as well. You know that there's a conversation that you need to have, but you are dreading that conversation. Really? It is this anxiety-induced moment there of like, I know what I need to say. I'm just terrified to have this conversation because I don't know what it's going to do to the relationship. What would you say to individuals that are still kind of struggling with that decision to have that honest conversation?
Well, it's better than just cutting the person off and leaving them wondering what happened. Let's say you've been an alcoholic and you've really struggled with an addiction to alcohol, and you have friends that you used to drink with, right? And they still want to go out and you drink with them. You made a decision to follow Christ. You made a decision to break the power of this addiction in your life. Something's got to change. If you just start not showing up and just declining their invitations and never say anything, they're going to feel like, yeah, he became a Christian and cut me out of his life.
Right.
What kind of a religion is that? What kind of Jesus is that? Would just have you come to him and then reject all your friends? I think when you have that authentic conversation, you're really helping them to understand who you are now and why you made the decisions you did.
Right.
You know, you're saying, I struggle with this, and this addiction is pulling my life down. It's not something I want in my future, so I'm not going to go drink with you again. We could maybe hang out and do something productive or something but that's just not part of my life anymore. And it's not a rejection of you.
Right.
It's just I'm moving on to something else in my life, and I can't do it anymore. It's just not healthy for me. And not everybody's going to like that. And the fact of it is you will lose some relationships because there are people, as I said yesterday, who are not willing to go there and whose intention is not to go in that direction. And you will lose some relationships, but that's part of the cost of following Jesus, you know, and doing what's right for your life, that some relationships don't make it into the next level that God's calling you to walk in.
It's really good.
And you can still love that person, and if that person needs you and needs help with something and needs advice, you can still be there for that person. And you can tell them that, hey, I'm still your friend. I still will be here for you. We're just not going to hang out in the same context that we did before.
Yeah. Yeah, I found some value in, like, connecting people to other people as well. Like, and this doesn't necessarily apply to, like, that specific example. But, like, if your tank is full of people that you're pouring into, too many people just say yes to everything and everybody that comes their way and everybody that needs help. You're going to be the one to help them and pour. Sometimes you can't do that. Like we said, it's about the balance. If you're full on your ministry pouring out tank, something you can do is kind of find another one of your friends you're close with that maybe they're less full in their pouring out tank, and you can connect to those two people so that they're not stuck out here in the dark, but also you're not taking on more than you can handle.
Yeah, that's what I do a lot anymore. Most of my relational, it's like Legos. You only have so many connection points, and most of my connection points are full as to people that I can hang out with and have dinner with and hang with, you know. Mine are pretty full, and I'm that kind of person who wants to take on new people and new relationships all the time. But you just get burned out where it's too much. Sure. I have learned to kind of have an eagle eye when I talk to a person and get to know a lot of people on a fairly it's not a deep relationship, but on a fairly, I don't want to say shallow, but that's the only word I'm coming to now. I'm on a kind of a shallow relationship level, but you know who they are and you know kind of what they're about. And I try to know a lot of people in that realm so that when I see a person, I can think, okay, if I connect this person to that person, it's going to be a big win for both of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it seems that that's modeled by Jesus with the 12 disciples. And I mean, he had 12, and really only several of them he had really deep conversations and relationships with, at least that we see in Scripture. So it seems to be suggesting that it's better to have a small amount of really deep, meaningful relationships than a large amount of relationships where you have to kind of just half think about the time you're spending with them and things like that. It seems, Scripture seems to be suggesting that the former is better.
People always talking about be like Jesus. If you want to do what Jesus did, you're going to have a group of people that you're pouring your life into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he did send them out 2 by 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we may just talk about.
Possibly.
He did not send them out alone.
Yeah.
Yep.
He sent them out with a friend, with a partner to do ministry with. Yeah.
One of the things I love about this conversation is that oftentimes when we talk about choosing the right friends and surrounding yourself with the right people, it's oftentimes directed towards kids and students, talking about that impressionable time right there and not wanting, your kids to get caught up in the wrong crowd, right?
Yep.
But what I love about this conversation, man, is that it's still placing value on it as you enter into adulthood, as you enter into different stages and seasons of life, that being intentional about who you surround yourself with isn't just for something for when you're younger, when you're in high school, middle school, whatever. It is still something that's extremely necessary as you grow older.
You need to be with people, like, let's take, for instance, parenting.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get with people who are just ahead of you and who have navigated the season in front of you successfully.
Right.
It's like when you're running a race, if you've ever run a road race or anything like that. You want to find a person to pace yourself with in a race that's just a little bit better than you.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to try to hang with them as long as you can. We've run a few half marathons and stuff like that, and you just try to find that person who's just a little ahead of you and stay with them long as you can.
Right.
And even if they burst away from you 3/4 through the race, you've improved your race because you stuck with them. I think parents need this desperately, because you go in these seasons of parenting that you're in. You got the baby stage that somebody's about to go through and learn a whole lot of stuff.
In case you didn't know.
Yeah, I figure most of our folks know that by now. But you got the baby stage, and then you get them to a point of the toddler stage, and then you got them going to elementary school, and then middle school's a whole new world, and then high school. Then when you approach the ends of that, you got college, and then you're seeing your kids get married. I mean, there's all these stages. I had a friend who sat down with me for about an hour a month or so ago, and his oldest child is going to college. In fact, they dropped him off at college last week, and we're in that season.
Yeah.
And he just talked to me for about an hour about navigating that season, because we had.
Right.
And I was able to tell him, here's what it would likely feel like. Here's some of the emotions you're going to feel. Here's some things that worked for me. Here's some things that didn't. And so it was really cool.
Awesome.
So I think parents need this. Married couples need that. You go through all those parenting seasons are also marriage seasons that you walk through. And you need to find somebody, a couple who have, if you're in marriage, a great thing for a young married couple to do is find an older married couple and say, hey, let me take you to dinner, and just sit down. And it doesn't have to be an ongoing commitment. It can say, hey, let me take you out to dinner, buy their dinner, and say, hey, we'll talk to you, and we'll tell you what we know about marriage, and just pick their brain.
It's good.
When you do that, I said this at least one service, when you do that, don't talk. Listen. Right. Have a list of questions prepared on a piece of paper before you go, or on your phone or wherever it is, and take notes and write down what they say.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll take advantage of that.
I've had people come to me for advice before, and they want to sit down and have lunch for an hour, and they talk the whole time. And I didn't get a chance to say anything, and I've just politely kind of smiled and listened, and then lunch was over, and they didn't hear anything.
Yeah, we missed the opportunity.
Yeah. So if you're coming to ask for advice, be quiet and listen for it.
Ask the question and sit back and listen.
Yeah. Okay, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
We're going on again, moving forward in this series. It's going to be fun to unpack.
Indeed it is.
All right. Thank you all so much. Been good to be with you.